And good morning and welcome back to Sports Today, and specifically the morning wrap video with Sports Today, where we bring you all of the major news that you might have missed out on whilst you were catching up on some all-important rest. Because let's face it, whilst you and I and the whole world really needs sleep, the world of sport doesn't really sleep. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. And big news number one, there was a bit of a DRS controversy in the second test, or on day 4 of the second test between India and West Indies, involving Jasprit Bumrah. Jasprit Bumrah believed that he had trapped John Campbell out leg before. The decision was given not out, but upon a DRS review, it was still given not out because there was believed to be an inside edge onto the pads from the bat. Now, the main problem was that if you see the corresponding images, you'd realize that the bat seemed very close to the pads at that point in time as well. So it was a little tough for the umpires to overturn the decision that was given by the on-field umpire, which is what led to a rather funny exchange between Bumrah and the umpire, where Bumrah was heard on the stump mic saying, it's out, but the technology just can't prove it. It is yet another close call that you'd argue hasn't gone India's way with John Campbell, because you'd remember even on day 3, there were 3 occasions where Campbell survived, and on all occasions it was Washington Sundar who was the unlucky bowler. Of course, didn't end up costing India too much in the end because Campbell was eventually dismissed by Ravindra Jadeja, but it is still one of those flashpoints in the test match. Big news number 2, and well, this one is a funny viral news because yesterday South Africa and Pakistan were starting off a test series, and in the test series, well, there was a lot of excitement to see Babar Azam play in Lahore, which is, of course, his hometown. And it reached a point where the crowd were actually cheering any time a batsman was close to being out, which is what happened when Shan Masood was at the crease. And whilst on commentary, Sean Pollock actually called out the fans. He just made one problem. He said that why is it that the Pakistan fans are cheering when the India captain is about to be out? Yikes, talk about a big viral gap to be made. It's gone viral on social media and a lot of people are having a laugh, whether poking fun at Pollock, Shan Masood, Pakistan, you know the drill. It's quite funny. It's a kind of unfortunate slip up as well, but it is what it is. Speaking of, and let's revert back to the West Indies and India test, there was a surprising decision made on day 3 when India chose to follow on, because truth be told, it's something that you don't see a lot of teams enforce unless there's a very, very big margin. And afterwards, even West Indies admitted they were surprised that they were asked to follow on, with spinner Khari Pierre speaking in the post-match press conference and saying that, yeah, we didn't expect that decision to come our way. And he gave a pretty clear rationale for it. He said that I'd spent some time out in the middle batting. He's saying that it was a slow pitch, but it was still a good pitch to bat on, and it does seem to confirm a suspicion that the Delhi pitch, whilst on the slower side, is not exactly a rank turner. It's a slow turner, and if you get your eye set, there are runs to be scored, which is what led to the surprise from the West Indies camp that India, instead of going back into bat, said that no, you follow on. Of course, the rationale was that India would want to only bat once and get the test match over with, although considering how things are going right now, there's every chance that India would have to bat a second time, even if the duration isn't very long. And another match which India were playing, which had a lot of attention on Sunday, it was, of course, the Indian women versus Australia in the ICC Women's World Cup, a match that India ended up conceding a record chase in. But it wasn't the bowlers who faced the wrath of Harmanpreet Kaur after the match. In fact, she said that she believed the batters didn't do enough. In fact, she said that the batters could have gotten 30-40 more runs, and raised questions over the contributions of the lower order, where you remember India suffered a collapse and actually didn't end up batting out their full quota of overs. Harman, of course, does have a valid point, but the bowling has now let India down in 2 consecutive games, and perhaps some questions need to be asked there as well. Speaking of bowling and big matches, Pat Cummins is one of those players who there's been a lot of focus on, with the Ashes set to begin in about a month's time, and now he himself has spoken out and pretty much ruled himself out of the first test match. You'd remember that Cummins had suffered a lumbar stress fracture, and there's been no real update. But speaking at an event, he said that, look, it seems unlikely I'm playing that test, and he gave a very good reason. He's saying you'd want to get at least a month of bowling into your everyday rhythms, everyday warm-ups. You need to be bowling in the nets for at least a month before you're ready for, let's say, playing a test match. Unfortunately for him, he's not back to bowling yet, and he says that it's going to take him at least a couple of weeks before he starts bowling again. Right now, they're taking things slow and letting everything heal. So he's focused more on work beyond just bowling. It's all recovery work. And he said that if I take about 2 more weeks to bowl and then need 4 weeks more of nets it's very unlikely I'm playing the first test. In fact, he couldn't even give a proper update as to when it is he'd be available for the remainder of the matches as well, saying that whilst doctors are working with me to ensure that I'm ready for the test and can play some part in the Ashes, it's also about balancing it out and not making a stupid decision now just to play the Ashes only to wreck my career, which is a pretty decent way to go about with things. Now, switching our focus from the world of cricket to the world of football, and there's been a lot of controversy in footballing circles about multi-club ownerships, especially after Premier League side Crystal Palace ended up getting banned from the UEFA Europa League and demoted to the Conference League because one of the clubs that comes under their ownership in Lyon were found to not be part of a blind trust and one person actually having a controlling stake in both sides. But now we're getting to hear, according to reports in England, that UEFA is planning to relax those rules and ensure that clubs are given more time to sort out the mess, which is, it makes sense in one way because multi-club ownerships are becoming very much a thing at this point in time. Of course, many would also argue that perhaps it's time to clamp down on multi-club ownerships and ensure that they're not being used unfairly by the parent club or the bigger club. But that's a bigger debate for another time. Right now, it does seem, though, that UEFA are saying, okay, multi-club can exist. Just make sure that there are provisions to ensure that there's no sporting interference, which is a questionable call to say the least. But I'm not the one running the sport, so what do I know? More football news, and this time from the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Ghana have become the 5th African nation to secure their spot in the FIFA World Cup 2026. They registered a 1-0 win in their latest FIFA World Cup qualifier match against Comoros and thus will seal their spot. Of course, Africa will have more spots, as will other nations as well, considering that 2026 is an expanded World Cup. But of course, Ghana have been one of those teams who consistently qualified, and it's impressive really for the Black Stars to have confirmed their qualification once again, courtesy of Mohamed Kudus' goal in that one match. Now, obviously, Ghana have been one of those teams consistently strong, so African fans can expect a good showing from them. Perhaps the biggest upset in FIFA World Cup qualifiers, though, came in the match between the Faroe Islands and Czech Republic, or Czechia as they are now known. Why is it that I say it's an upset? Well, because the Faroe Islands is a small little nation that has a population of about 55,000. Just for context, there are football stadiums that have bigger capacities than that. Just 55,000 people reside in the islands, and more importantly, they are ranked 136th in the world. But they registered a shock 1-0 win over the Czech Republic thanks to a late winner from substitute Martin Agneson, who came on, who scored like a minute after coming on. What this does, by the way, is that the Faroe Islands, amazingly, a country with a 55,000 odd population, are on course to qualify for the FIFA World Cup, which would make it some story really when you think about it. 55,000, as I said, there are big football clubs in the world who have grounds with a bigger capacity than that. So the nation that's ranked 136th in the world and who are then potentially en route to qualifying will be quite the story. More news this time from the world of sports beyond cricket and football now. Coco Gauff, who's had a breakthrough year, many would argue, in 2025, overcame Jessica Pegula 6-4-7-5 to clinch her third WTA Masters title of her career. She ended up winning the Wuhan Open, which is good news in two ways. One, it gives her third Masters title, which is always a big boost. Secondly, you've got the WTA finals coming up soon, and Coco Gauff happens to be the defending champion. So it's good momentum to carry into that tournament and potentially win the year-ender, something she has done before, but would of course be in pretty elite company if she manages to win it a second time around. Last but not least, and this is an interesting bit of news coming in from Neeraj Chopra's former coach Klaus Bartonets, who you remember only recently stopped working with Neeraj as Neeraj decided to work with Jan Zelezny. But Klaus believes that Neeraj still has another Olympic medal in him. He said that he has the capacity to win another Olympic medal. Jan Zelezny did it 3 times, so he knows what it takes mentally. And he was very praising of Neeraj and the kind of work that he's put in. And he believes that Neeraj does have what it takes to win another medal. But that's it from us on this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, X, and Facebook. And stay tuned through the day for more such updates from the world of sport.